My boyfriend is very caring and nice. We have a good relationship, so I'm bored and want Quarrel. I'm Maren, 28 years old, female, and I can't stop asking myself if I've ruined something good, or if I was already suffocating inside something that looked good on paper but didn't feel real. Silas, 30 male, is my boyfriend. He's the kind of man people dream about ending up with. Steady, calm, endlessly patient. He leaves sticky notes on the fridge that say things like, "Have a good day, love you." He brings me coffee in bed on Sundays. He never raises his voice and never makes me feel small. My mom adores him, my friends envy me, strangers probably assume we're a Pinterest couple. And yet, God, this is going to sound insane. I can't stop thinking about Riven, 29, male. My ex, the human hurricane. The one who screamed so loud in parking lots that strangers stopped to stare. Who broke a lamp once in a jealous rage. Who loved me so hard and so violently it felt like standing too close to a fire. I used to cry in the shower because of Riven. I used to beg him to calm down, to stop throwing things, to just be normal for 5 minutes. But then he'd grab me by the face, kiss me like he was drowning, and suddenly the world was electric again. He made me feel alive in ways that burned. Silas. He's different. With Silas, life is soft, predictable, smooth. He listens when I'm upset, nods, and says, "I understand." He folds laundry with me. We plan trips 6 months in advance. He doesn't scare me, doesn't push me, doesn't drag me to emotional cliffs. And somehow, that's the problem. I thought I wanted safe. I thought I wanted kind. And maybe I still do. But lately in the quiet, I've felt this gnawing hunger in my chest, like I'm starving for something I can't name. Last week we were curled up watching some stupid rom-com, and out of nowhere I blurted, "Do you ever miss the thrill of a good argument?" Silas laughed like I'd made a joke. Why would I miss that? I love that we don't fight. And something inside me twisted. That was the wrong answer. My pulse spiked, my skin itched. I wanted him to snap, to roll his eyes, to tell me I was ridiculous. Instead, he just smiled and tucked the blanket tighter around me. That night I picked a fight over nothing. He stayed calm. The next day I picked another. He hugged me and said, "I know you're stressed." The harder I pushed, the gentler he got, like I was throwing myself at a brick wall that refused to crack. And it's starting to make me crazy, because deep down, in some dark place I hate admitting exists, I miss Riven's chaos. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, don't forget to sub and drop a like if you're enjoying the story. And tell me what you think in the comments. I'll feature the best one in the next video. When I first met Silas, I thought I'd finally outgrown my addiction to chaos. He was introduced to me at a friend's gallery opening, standing by a painting of a rusted ship, quietly studying the brushwork like it mattered. He asked me questions no one else ever did. Not what I did for work, not where I grew up, but what kind of books kept me up at night. It was disarming. His calm felt like a blanket after years of being tossed into storms. Riven was the opposite from the very start. He was a college party that never ended. We met in the middle of a crowded concert, bodies pressed together, music shaking the floorboards. He noticed me because I knew the lyrics, because I screamed them back at the band with the same hunger he did. That night ended with us drinking cheap vodka in someone's kitchen, his hand on mine, already promising me the world. Riven was fire, and I was oxygen. I didn't stand a chance. With Silas, things unfolded slowly. We started with coffee dates, hikes, late-night conversations that never left me wrung out. It felt sustainable. My friends would whisper that he was a keeper, that he was the kind of man who built futures, not bonfires. I believed them. For a while, that was enough. But then the cracks started. Not in him, God, Silas never cracks, but in me. Little things triggered this itch under my skin. Like the night I came home late from work, hoping he'd be upset, hoping he'd show me he cared enough to lose his composure. Instead, he just smiled with relief and heated up leftovers for me. No questions, no suspicion, no passion, just steady care. It should have been comforting. Instead, I went to bed with my heart racing in disappointment. I started comparing again. Dangerous, I know, but it was automatic. Riven would have torn into me, demanded to know where I was, who I was with. He would have slammed doors, maybe broken a glass, then kissed me like punishment until I forgot why I was mad. That intensity, that volatility, it was poison, but big part of me missed the way it consumed me. Silas notices the distance. He doesn't say much, but sometimes I catch him looking at me with this quiet worry, like he knows I'm slipping through his fingers and doesn't know how to stop it. The other night he asked so gently it almost broke me, "Maren, are you happy with me?" And I lied. I said yes. But the truth is, I don't know what happiness looks like anymore. After that night when Silas asked if I was happy, something inside me cracked wide open. I couldn't stop hearing his voice, soft and careful, like he already knew the answer. And the guilt. It didn't quiet me. It made me restless. I started staying out later. At first it was harmless, drinks with coworkers, lingering too long after happy hour, but then it became deliberate. I wanted to see what Silas would do if I stumbled in at 2 a.m., makeup smudged, reeking of whiskey and bad decisions. Would he finally snap? Would he finally grab my arm, demand an explanation, fight for me the way Riven would have? But Silas didn't. He just met me at the door, bleary-eyed, and asked if I was safe, offered me water, tucked me into bed like I was something fragile instead of someone unraveling right in front of him. His calmness made me feel invisible, like my chaos couldn't even touch him. That only pushed me further. One Friday night I went to a club I knew Riven used to love. I didn't tell Silas. The music was pounding, light slicing the dark, sweat and heat pressing against me from every direction. And for a second I thought I saw Riven. Same messy hair, same restless energy. But it wasn't him. Just some stranger who smiled like he could see right through me. Still, the reminder was enough. I missed that adrenaline. The rush of never knowing if the night would end in passion or destruction. With Silas, I always knew. With Riven, I never did. Silas tried to talk to me about it a few days later. He didn't accuse, didn't scold. He just said, "You don't seem like yourself, Maren. You've been gone a lot." His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed something else. Fear, maybe. The thought of hurting him made me sick, but the truth lodged in my throat like a stone. I couldn't tell him that his love was too soft for me, that sometimes I wanted to burn. Instead, I snapped, "Maybe I'm tired of being treated like some glass doll. Did you ever think of that?" The words sliced sharper than I intended. Silas froze, his lips parting as if to defend himself, but then he just nodded, like he thought I was right. And that's when the panic set in, because I realized he might actually let me go. The night everything came to a head wasn't loud or dramatic. Not at first. It was quiet, suffocating quiet, the kind that feels like it's pressing on your ribs. Silas and I were sitting on the couch, a half-eaten dinner between us, the TV flickering with some show neither of us was watching. I couldn't stop tapping my foot, couldn't stop biting at the inside of my cheek. The words were bubbling up inside me, bitter and sharp, and I knew if I didn't let them out, I'd explode. "Silas," I blurted, cutting through the silence, "do you ever feel like we're missing something?" He turned to me slowly, brows drawn, concern etched into every line of his face. "What do you mean?" "I mean..." My throat tightened. "This us. It's too smooth, too predictable. Don't you ever want more?" "More what?" His voice was calm, patient, like always. "More passion, more intensity, a fight that makes your blood race. The kind of love that feels like your heart might burst." My words came out ragged, almost desperate. Silas stared at me, stunned. "Maren, why would I want to fight with you? I love that we don't hurt each other." And that was the moment. His answer should have comforted me. Instead, it gutted me, because all I heard was, "He doesn't understand." My voice rose before I could stop it. "But don't you get it? Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning in silence with you, like I'm sleepwalking through something that should feel alive. I need fire, Silas. I hesitated, the name catching in my throat, but I swallowed it down before it slipped out. I need what I had with Riven. Silas's face crumpled just slightly, like the ground had shifted under him. He set down his fork, his hands trembling the tiniest bit. "So what you're saying is, I'm not enough for you." The air went dead still. My chest heaved, my pulse hammering. I wanted to take it back, to soften it, but the truth was already out, raw and ugly between us. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just whispered, "Maybe we should take some time apart, figure out what it is you really want." It was the gentlest rejection in the world, and it hurt more than a slammed door ever could. I packed a bag that night, my hands shaking as I shoved clothes into a duffel. Silas stood in the doorway, watching, eyes rimmed red but dry. When I passed him on my way out, he said, almost inaudibly, "I hope you find whatever it is you're chasing." And with that, The door closed behind me. For the first time in years, I was free. For the first time in years, I was terrified. The first week away from Silas felt like oxygen flooding into starved lungs. My new apartment was tiny, with peeling paint and neighbors who blasted music until 3 a.m., but it felt raw and alive. No sticky notes on the fridge, no soft smiles that made me feel guilty. Just noise, chaos, and space to make mistakes. And I did. I started going out almost every night. Bars, clubs, late-night diners with people I barely knew. Anything to keep the silence away. I'd scroll through my phone at 2 a.m., staring at Riven's name and old messages, my finger hovering over call. For weeks I didn't. For weeks I told myself I was stronger than that. Then one night, I broke. It was raining, sheets of water drenching the city, and I stumbled out of a bar half drunk and half sobbing. And there he was, Riven, leaning against the side of his car like some kind of ghost I'd summoned. His hair was damp, his eyes wild in that way I remembered too well. "Maren," he said, and the sound of my name in his mouth almost undid me. I should have walked away. I should have turned back, called a cab, anything. Instead, I let him wrap me in his arms. His jacket already soaked through, and I felt that old electricity strike like lightning. We spent the night together, not even in a romantic sense. Just hours of talking, drinking, kissing like we were back in college. By morning, my head was pounding with more than just a hangover. I cracked open a door I swore I'd nailed shut. Over the next few weeks, Riven crept back into my life like smoke through a crack in the wall. He'd text me at midnight, "Come out! I miss you!" He'd show up outside my apartment without warning, honking until I came down. The volatility I used to drown in was back, and part of me reveled in it. But it wasn't the same. I wasn't the same. His jealous streak returned immediately, asking who I'd been with, why I didn't answer my phone, snapping when I said I was tired and needed a night in. At first the drama felt exhilarating. Then, little by little, it started to feel suffocating again. Meanwhile, Silas reached out once. A simple text. "I hope you are doing okay." I stared at it for a long time, my chest aching. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because how could I admit that the very chaos I had been craving was already starting to consume me again? The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd walked away from a man who gave me peace, only to run straight back into the arms of the storm. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it was going to end badly. The first real crack with Riven came on a Tuesday night. We were at his apartment, the two of us surrounded by empty bottles and takeout containers, arguing over nothing. Literally nothing. I laughed at a text from a coworker, and that was enough. "Who the hell's Miles?" he demanded, his face twisted, pacing the room like a caged animal. My coworker. He sent me a meme, for God's sake. "That's what they all say," Riven snapped, his voice rising. "Don't play me, Maren. I know the look you get when you're hiding something." It spiraled fast. He slammed his fist against the wall so hard a picture frame crashed to the floor, glass splintering across the hardwood. I froze. That old, familiar adrenaline shot through me, fear braided with desire. My pulse was screaming. This was what I used to live for, wasn't it? But standing there barefoot among shards of glass, I didn't feel alive. I felt trapped. I grabbed my bag, muttered something about needing air, and bolted. Riven followed me down the street, yelling, his voice echoing off the buildings. People turned their heads. I wanted to disappear. The next day, he showed up outside my job, just leaning against the hood of his car, smoking, waiting. My stomach dropped when I saw him through the glass doors. I told him he couldn't do that, couldn't just show up unannounced, but he only smirked. "Don't pretend you don't like it," he said. "You missed me last time, too." That night I locked my apartment door twice, heart hammering. The storm I'd thought I wanted was back. Full force. Meanwhile, Silas lingered in the corners of my mind. I saw his name on my phone sometimes, one unread message from weeks ago still sitting there. I thought about how he never once raised his voice at me, how he would have picked up the broken frame gently, asked if I was okay, cleaned the glass himself. But I wasn't ready to admit it out loud. The chaos with Riven escalated again the following weekend. We went to a bar, and some guy brushed past me on the way to the bathroom. That was it. That tiny, meaningless touch. Riven shoved the guy so hard he almost toppled into a table. The shouting match that followed ended with us getting thrown out, the bouncer's hands gripping my arm like I was guilty too. I sat in Riven's car afterwards, shaking. He was still ranting, knuckles raw from where he'd punched a wall outside. And all I could think was, This is the man I once convinced myself I couldn't live without. But now, all I wanted was the quiet safety of Silas. The realization landed heavy and terrifying, because I knew I couldn't go back to him, not after what I'd said, not after how I left, and yet the thought of staying with Riven was starting to feel like drowning for real. The night it finally broke me, it wasn't even one of Riven's explosions. It was the aftermath. We just had another fight, this time because I didn't want to go to some underground show he insisted on. I said I was tired. That was enough to set him off. He slammed the door on his way out, shouting that I'd forgotten what real love even was. When the apartment went silent, I looked around at the wreckage. An overturned chair, a wine glass shattered against the wall, clothes tossed everywhere from where he'd stormed through looking for his jacket. My chest ached, not with longing this time, but with exhaustion. And then, almost without thinking, I opened my laptop and pulled up Silas's last message. I hope you're doing okay. Just 7 words. No pressure, no judgment, just Silas being Silas. I started crying so hard I couldn't see the screen, because I realized what I'd thrown away wasn't boring. It was rare. The next morning, Riven showed up pounding on my door. He smelled like whiskey, eyes bloodshot, voice sharp as a knife. You think you can ignore me now? You think you're too good for me, Maren? When I didn't answer, he kicked the door hard enough to rattle the frame. My neighbor cracked her door open down the hall, staring at me like, do you need help? My face burned with shame. That was it. That was the moment I decided I was done. I blocked Riven on everything, packed a bag, and left my apartment behind. I didn't even care about the lease or the security deposit. I just needed distance. And then, I did something I wasn't sure I had the right to do. I reached out to Silas. We met at a little coffee shop, neutral ground. He looked the same, calm, steady, kind, but there was a guardedness in his eyes now that hadn't been there before. I'm sorry, I blurted before I even sat down. Silas, I was so wrong. I thought I wanted chaos. I thought peace meant settling, but it doesn't. It means safety. It means love. And I pushed you away because I didn't know how to handle that. For a long time, he didn't say anything. He just stared at me, fingers wrapped around his mug. Finally, he sighed. Maren, you hurt me. His voice was soft, but the weight of it hit me harder than any of Riven's shouts ever did. I gave you everything I had, and you told me it wasn't enough. I know, I whispered, tears sliding down my face. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know I see it now. I see what you were giving me, and I miss it more than I can even explain. Silas didn't promise me anything that day. He didn't take me back, didn't say we'd try again. But when he reached across the table and squeezed my hand, just once, I felt a spark of something I hadn't in months. Hope. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't craving fire. I was craving warmth. Rebuilding with Silas wasn't some magical overnight thing. He didn't just open his arms and take me back, and honestly, that was the proof I needed that he wasn't just safe. He was strong. We started small. Coffee once a week, walks in the park, texts that didn't bleed desperation but felt like cautious steps forward. At first, every silence between us felt like a punishment, but I learned quickly it wasn't. It was him giving me space to prove I was serious. And I was. I threw myself into therapy, finally facing the ugly truth I'd been dodging for years, that I craved chaos because it distracted me from being vulnerable, because if I was busy surviving Riven's storms, I never had to sit still with myself. Silas's calmness terrified me, not because it was boring, but because it left me exposed. Week by week, I started unlearning that. Silas didn't promise me drama, but he promised me honesty. And when he said he was willing to try, just try, it felt like the first real gift I'd ever been given. Of course, Riven didn't disappear quietly. He called from unknown numbers, left voicemails that swung from rage to begging, even showed up outside my old apartment once. But this time I didn't open the door. I didn't pick up. I didn't let him drag me back into his storm. And then came the moment of revenge. Not planned, not plotted, but perfect in its simplicity. Silas and I went to a mutual friend's birthday dinner. A crowded restaurant, warm lights, laughter spilling across the tables. And halfway through the night, who walked in but Riven? Eyes bloodshot, shirt wrinkled, carrying that same restless energy like a weapon. He saw me. He saw Silas. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. I smiled. Not for him, but for me. Because in that moment, he wasn't a storm anymore. He was just a man. unraveling in public while I sat hand in hand with the quiet strength I had once mistaken for weakness. Riven tried to catch my eye, even started toward our table, but Silas just looked at him calm and steady and said, "She's not yours anymore." And I swear it was better than any slammed door, any shouted word, any broken glass. Watching Riven falter, realizing he had no power left, it was the sweetest revenge I could have imagined. Silas and I aren't perfect, we probably never will be, but love doesn't need to be fire to matter. Sometimes, the real victory is learning that peace, the kind you once thought was suffocating, can actually be the thing that finally lets you breathe. And that's what I chose. That's what I'll keep choosing. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel and like it. You can also watch more shocking stories in the playlist.